we didn't have YouTube growing up. You had guys like you and me.
Yeah.
They would be like, yo, did you see Austin Powers? And then you would do your Austin Powers, and you do the whole scene.
Yeah.
I was
the
people.
Channel. It's just, you tune into my channel at the lunchroom.
And then everyone's there standing around staring at you.
We had legit followers.
That's it.
On this week of Jaywalking, I'm joined by a very good friend, fellow comedian, fellow just amazing human, Kirke Gardener. You're going to see it because I didn't even introduce him till like 36 minutes into the episode because we just were having such a great conversation as the producer was setting everything up that we're like, we're just going to ride this wave. And I think it's the kind of talk that everybody needs to listen to and everybody needs to just take a breath. And I think a lot of the things we talked about today are things you guys are feeling, we're all feeling right now. It's very tense out there. So, hey, while you're walking your dog, while you're driving to school, give us a listen and make sure you like, subscribe, share with a friend, with an enemy, and let's all make somebody smile this week. Have a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this weekend I got a big keynote that I'm doing. So it's like
a keynote?
Yeah.
Like
I'm the ending 90-minute. I'm doing a 90-minute talk.
Is it jokes with they give you an agenda to push through?
So I got to put, it was a goal to charge. It's an early education conference, so it's a lot of, from birth to like kindergarten teachers.
Early education conference, okay. And then, but what I'm saying is they asked you to come do the keynote.
For the end of the conference.
End of the conference.
Just charge them up.
Get it all out there and then thank them for being at the thing. And you just do comedy?
I'm actually telling my story. So I'm actually doing my story of how I became a teacher into a comedian, but I start from when I was really young.
Yeah.
And then it's about perseverance. So it's all the curveballs. So it's got the baseball theme to it because I've always loved baseball. So the talk is actually called laughing through the curveballs.
There you go.
And so then it's just I based it into my life in 9 innings. And so then each inning's a different segment of my life. And
it's almost like you know what you're doing.
Challenges that I face, yeah. And then how I've overcome them, how they led to me
You've
becoming
written
a
this
teacher.
out.
Yeah, written it out, but I'm doing a visual, so it's a PowerPoint of all images.
Okay.
That'll be up on the screen for each inning.
Okay.
And then it's images that have a theme to them. The first one's a U-Haul, because it's on the move is the first inning. And then it shows all the buildings of the 7 schools I went to, K to 12.
7 schools.
Yeah.
You got me beat.
Yeah, so
I did
but then
4.
So it's a mix. At first I start with jokes and then I get into the talk of it. And I have a really good beginning and end cap for it. And then it's just all the vignettes in the middle of it. And then some innings are jokes. Some innings are joke heavy.
Right.
Some others are story heavy.
Right.
But it's all so that when they see this, these early educators are seeing, when they see me throughout the talk, they're going to see me as the kids that they have in class. They're going to see me as themselves or their colleagues. They're going to see me as the parents that maybe they deal with. So as they're seeing me go through the stages of my life, the goal is to talk about all the educators that kind of guided me at moments when I could have gone off the guardrails. But
right.
Somebody was there to help me or to guide me. And through that and then having passions like baseball, those were the things, those people and baseball were the things that kind of kept me on track through all the things that could have pushed me through, way off.
Yeah.
So then the charge at the end is
go be that person for somebody.
Yeah. Because I have some non-examples too. I talk about my kindergarten teacher who, I don't have an R in my alphabet book because she held up the rabbit and she's like, whose is this? And I was like, hell if I'm admitting to that. So I actually have the book. I'm going to bring it with me. It doesn't have an R in it because she would, she made me feel a certain way about my drawing. So I was like, well, I'm not going to admit that it's mine.
Right.
And then in first grade, I had Sister Doreen when I moved to this school.
You've talked about her.
And she made this kid stand in front of the class because he peed his pants until his mom brought I would have nightmares about the nuns and how they were gangsters with guns.
How can you claim that the hypocrisy that pushes so many people away?
I know.
So many and dude, I'm getting emotional thinking about a kid being, because I've had my own. Everyone has their own story of growing up, right? So and it's everyone has their own bullshit or whatever that they deal with growing up with it. But it's to put yourself in that kid's spot and then you as being in that room.
Yeah.
And then this person who's supposed to be of the cloth that's doing it.
100%. Yeah.
God, like that
Crazy. So like that, and then third grade I moved again, but that was like my first teacher that I felt seen, I felt safe. It was Mrs. Uteg, and she was just a sweetheart. I don't know if you guys have read this, but they used to have like in the basement of the school, they would right before a holiday, they would have like this Oriental trading company come in, and it was like you could buy stuff for your parents, but it was like the cheapest.
It was like a kid's little Christmas village thing, and you could get a light, like a flashlight keychain.
Yeah, stuff for your parents.
My dad would
bring
love
money.
this. Yeah,
and I actually bought one of the pieces of jewelry and gave it to Mrs. Uteg, and I think it like turned her like skin green because it was like such
brass.
But, like she wore it anyways, So, but I just remember her. Like I remember
she
how
lost
sweet
her
she
hand
was.
10 years later.
Right. I couldn't find her. I was trying to find her. I couldn't find her on social media. I was just trying to find a photo of her too. But I couldn't find her. So if you know Mrs. Uteg out there, anybody, she taught at St. Rose or Sacred Heart in Carbondale. And this must have been 1992.
And was she
1991?
From everyone was 700 years old when I was that age.
She was really young. She was a super new young teacher.
Except for the super really young.
Yeah, and that was my first year there. I just remember, I loved her class, and then after that, it just my parents. I was a child of divorce, and then my dad at that point hadn't been in my life.
Most of us are.
And then he tried to get custody of me at that time, so there was a lot of turmoil behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So like it made but when I was at school, I didn't think about that, and so I actually moved with my dad in fourth grade, so I ended up switching schools, and then it was a bad idea, so then I immediately switched back to fifth grade. So and then I was kind of angsty after that. I think the adolescence of everything.
Fourth grade, how did if you don't mind me asking, how did you come to the realization that it was a bad idea? Was it grades? Was it? It was like
I was always good. I was the kid that was now willing. I was so dying for approval from my peers that I'd be the kid that would flip off the teacher when she turned her back to the class, just as a joke. Like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I flipped off Mrs. Evans while she's writing on the board? Yeah. Or, we have a sub. Every time she opens a window, I'm going to go right behind her and close it. Like that. My DARE officer came in. My DARE officer in fifth grade. Yeah. By then, I was like off the hinges, and I'm like, I'm addicted to crack. I tried to in my Catholic school uniform, telling him I'm on crack. Yeah. And he's like pulling me on the hall. Well, then we're gonna have to test you. I'm like, let's do it. And I'm just like Bart Simpson. I'm just like full off the rails, like. Going against authority at that point. And then sixth grade, I had Mrs. Coleman, and she was the meanest teacher I've ever had. I felt like she was out to get people, and she was actually my friend's grandmother, so she knew me like outside of school. Yeah. So I feel like she was a little meaner to us because of that. So I just started skipping school. So then sixth grade, I'm like, I'm not going anymore. I stopped going. I would every day I would take like a long weekend every week.
Hell yeah.
Because my parents were out working, so nobody knew. I would
That's
just
how nobody
stay home and watch The Price is Right.
Nobody knew. Everyone was working.
And a Catholic school was getting their money. I was a good enough kid. I wasn't gone for like a week at a time.
In a Catholic school, they can just pass you if they want.
They don't care. They didn't care. So I would just.
I don't even think you need to be a certified teacher to teach at Catholic school.
You probably don't. That's a good question.
I think they can be like, you teach them this now. Yeah, like teach life skills. Welcome, Mr. Gardener.
Well, that's what happened. That's what happened my junior year. I went to 3 schools my junior year because we didn't realize, but the school was going to close down. It would have been like 2 years after I would have graduated. Okay. But the writing was on the wall at that point. So yeah, so like it was like my junior year was like my Goldilocks in the 3 schools year. Okay. It was like the one was too small. We couldn't even field a baseball team. That was my concern. Academics was my mom's concern. But like we couldn't field a baseball team. Like, well, if I can't even go play baseball after this, my junior, like that's the year colleges look at you. That's the year. I mean, I was doing really well in baseball. I had bid to be on
junior year's the year
Olympic team.
That's the year.
And so like that was the year. So I was like, oh, we can't field a team. I'm out. And then the public school that I transferred to briefly was too big. That bowl of porridge was too big and full of drugs. So, So then we found this private school that was just right out of our price range. And it was massive, but I think my mom got a loan. Yeah. They had grant money from an organization that was helping kids who were from an area where the schools weren't good to be able to go to a school
there.
Like that.
So they always have a little extra money for that kind of stuff. My daughter had the same thing at Upland Country Day School.
Yeah, like that is the Wyoming Seminary is where I
my brother went there too.
Which is great because you have like 32 different countries there. I was talking to kids who spoke 3 languages before breakfast every morning.
So our stories are similar. junior year for me was my best year of getting in trouble at public school.
Oh, yeah?
To the point where at the end of that year, my mom finally looked at me and said, I'm sending you to military school.
Ooh.
And I said, okay, immediately.
Called their bluff? Or
I said, no. I was like, okay. I said, I'll repeat junior year because I got C's. Because basically, I believe you're the same way. Smart, don't have to study in school, so you can be that joke around kid because you're still going to pass all the tests.
Yeah.
And homework was a boring nonsense thing because you know that 3x plus 2, x is 2/3, whatever it really is. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you don't have to do it 60 times. You got it the first time they told you. But I was like, I'll redo junior year and get my grades up. I'll go to military school, and then hopefully I wanted to go into the Naval Academy. Top Gun got me.
So you were like really.
So I was like,
for this. Okay, I like this.
When I went from middle school to freshman year, which I did, middle school is the only school I did all 3 years straight through.
Okay.
Elementary school was 3 elementary schools. High school was 3 high schools between Valley Forge, Abington. I got kicked out of Valley Forge, Abington, and back to Valley Forge. But anyway, yeah, my mom threatened me on that, and I was like, fine, because I didn't have a good relationship with my stepdad. Yeah. I didn't have a relationship at all with my dad. And I was like, I get to go live at school with a bunch of dudes, play Army, like acts basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not have to deal with this. Like
that'd be great.
And it for me it was the best thing ever until I got kicked out the first year. And then I came back and I got kicked out again. I got kicked out twice. But that's for stupid stuff. Like one-off stupid stuff. Okay. You know. But all in all,
I was a good kid. So I think everybody knew I was a good kid. So that was clearly a cry for help or something. You know,
it's the attention.
It's that. I think
it's the attention. I still do it. Today, I still have this character defect of like wanting. I think it's what draws a lot of us to comedy.
Yes, I agree.
And we make jokes about it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm standing up here because I want your attention, and I say that because it's almost 100% true.
That's right. I was going to tell them because it's like early educators that I said the last time I had the full attention of a room full of early educators, I was flipping them off.
Yeah.
And I was 4 and I had no idea what it meant, but I loved the attention of it. Like everybody was paying attention to me. So I'm like just full blazing middle fingers around the room.
Yeah.
And I was like, I loved the attention. I didn't love the full wooden spoon I got across my backside when I got home.
I got the wooden spoon too.
Yeah, but
my mom ended up getting a longer one.
This was before gentle parenting for you guys out there. Yeah. That was gentle parenting.
The wooden spoon was
was the gentle
it's
parenting.
It's a sting.
Yeah. So, but like that concept of, how just seeking attention, because I think it is. I think that makes a lot of sense, and even, that's what comedy is. I was actually, as I was preparing for the keynote, I went through, my mom had all these boxes of old stuff. So as I was finding news clippings and stuff to kind of put in, I found this envelope, and I did this leadership conference because I was always kind of involved in the church. I was an altar boy. And this was like a leadership conference where you were getting to learn how to be a facilitator for like a youth group. Mm-hmm. And there were all these notes. And I'm like, what are these notes? At first, I thought it was like an old girlfriend note. I'm like, why did my mom keep old girlfriend notes? That'd been weird.
Yeah.
But I started to open them, and they were all the people that I trained with at this leadership conference when I was like a junior or senior in high school. And it was kind of cute because they were all like, oh my God, you're the funniest. Apparently I had a really good Austin Powers impression.
There you go.
But like, it just was funny to me because I was like, oh yeah, I think I always said, I didn't start comedy till I was really late. But then I'm looking at these letters, I'm like, oh, clearly I was always
your
the
whole
guy.
Life.
And that makes sense. Every time you move somewhere, you're trying to get approval of your peers.
You were the new kid a lot.
Yeah. I was
you had to do it. I wanted to talk about that too because like being the new kid a lot, you're either creepy quiet kid.
Yep.
You're either the super good looking athlete guy who the girls automatically want.
Me.
Not me either. You know what I mean? I was not that guy. I'm like short, like unassuming, not me. So it had to be the personality.
Yeah.
It had to be the jokes. It had to be the fart noises. It had to be, dude, I was thinking about this like for a bit is like, we didn't have YouTube growing up. You had guys like you and me.
Yeah.
They would be like, yo, did you see Austin Powers? And then you would do your Austin Powers, and you do the whole scene.
Yeah.
And all the people.
Channel. It's just, you tune into my channel at the lunch.
And then everyone's there standing around staring at you.
We had legit followers.
That's it. They were like apostles. They were following us around.
That's why I joke with my kids that I teach with Latin. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like these kids. I'm like, dude, back then they had real followers.
Yes.
These people were outside their house waiting for them.
And they would go down to the thing to do, and they would follow them down.
Right.
And
So
like, he's going to talk again. This dude's hilarious.
Yeah.
But also, you had nothing else to do.
That's right. That's the other piece.
You didn't have video games.
They've been recreating AI. Somebody's been doing these AI on Instagram where it's like, here's my cloud, and he's like holding his trapper keeper, and he's like, I hear you guys like don't have to carry this around all day, and it's like, and it's just like them talking.
Those.
I love when somebody's been doing it for like old ones, like Moses taking a selfie.
Oh, really?
About daily life. Like it's kind of fun to watch some of
Day
those.
47 out here.
Yeah, these tablets.
They're so mad at me.
These tablets are so heavy. I don't have internet on these tablets.
I think I'll burn this bush and see what happens.
But it's just like, to me, like I love all that. But it's like the nostalgia of that time too. But yeah, it is crazy to think about all the times I moved the attention and how that, all those things did something for me. But like, wow, at any given moment, I was telling this to my therapist the other day, and she was like, "Do you ever like stop to be like, give yourself credit for like people could have crumbled at like one of the things that happened to you?" And I was like, I don't think you can when you're experiencing trauma on any kind of level. Listen, people have had it way worse than I've had it. I think that's what my mentality has always been. Like, listen, I wasn't assaulted by anybody. I wasn't diddled by anybody.
You were born in America.
Yeah, like I was like, well, that I think that the door on that being a positive
is closing. It's closing.
But I just nothing. But there was a lot of trauma. But it was all stuff that was either common or typical, or you just dealt with and you moved on. And even the lying, I think about that was probably the biggest one, is just lying to everybody about who was my family if I wasn't proud to tell, like, oh, where's your dad? Or, and so, joking about military because I could pretend he was just overseas or somewhere. And that's why I was moving so much. And, and then as long as they didn't ask me any real questions, it
was fine.
Yeah, it's like, what branch? And I'm like, Army. They're like, what division? Salvation?
Yeah.
So it's like,
the ones that's out there doing it.
Yeah. So it's just like, so as long as it was an easy, but I didn't realize the toll it took on me just lying to people on a regular basis, or like, oh, that was my mom's friend, my mom's roommate, my mom's sister through marriage.
Right.
And it was like, no, we just weren't allowed to say that was her wife or whatever. That term didn't exist then. You couldn't have that.
Right.
So it was just, I think even little stuff like that, I didn't realize how much it weighed on me, the fact that I could be at the grocery store with her and have to lie about who she was. Like, it's just so weird to me. Like, since I was a young kid, it was just this air of like, you had to lie. I just felt like I was in witness protection. I just felt like I had to learn.
It became a normal.
Yeah. And so after a while, when do you stop lying?
Right. And then you're lying about shit you don't have to lie about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think the toll of all of that was crazy. Like, and it was nobody's fault. It was just the times. It was like, well, it's just, you can't talk about that. You can't blame
fault on any.
And that's why I'm up in arms now, like, to switch into like I usually don't do political stuff. And last episode I had a guy in here, we talked about how like when the Charlie Kirk stuff happened, I kind of just sat back and just watched how all of my Facebook friends were reacting, because if you were a black comedian friend of mine, you reacted one way. If you were right side of the lane family member of mine, how they would react. Mm-hmm. And so I just and that's how I treated a lot of schools. When I went to a new school, I just kind of sat back and watched. Mm-hmm. But now I'm feeling a certain way about certain things. And like, I don't want to just sit back anymore. I don't want to just, like the Jimmy Kimmel thing. I don't really care about Jimmy Kimmel, to be honest. He's a nice enough guy, but like the concept of, I put a post out today that was basically like, oh, we're in the, looks like we're in the home of the brave and the land of don't say anything that's going to upset daddy. Because that's what it kind of feels like now. And it kind of feels like all of a sudden I'm back in this inner child of me is like, dude, we're done not saying stuff that we don't want to say. We're done. So if I feel like I have to censor myself,
right?
And a lot of the values, of like Charlie Kirk and stuff like that go against my family values.
Right.
Just because the way my family was designed, the way my family was. So it's like I have a hard time reconciling all those things, you know? So it's like, you know, it's a hard thing for people because people have so much emotion about it. But now it's like unhealthy to watch the way people are like commenting. Like, even watching the comments, I've been so nervous to look at the comments on that post since then.
Yeah.
I think I've dropped like 500 Instagram followers today.
Really?
Yeah. So it was like kind of like, all right, well, so be it. Like,
Well, that's the thing is you got to be as authentic as you can to yourself.
yeah, I was like, you know, that's it. Because I was like, that was what I was worried about as a kid. I was worried about as a kid, if they found out my mom was gay, well, were her pancakes going to taste different all of a sudden?
Right.
What, like, was her ride home from that, or her taking us to like Chuck E. Cheese or Top Dog,
Right.
and her giving was that not good now? Is her
Right.
money no good there? Did you
Right.
not want that? So it's just like that concept, and it feels the trauma of that is what's getting me all riled up personally with that, because then it's like, oh well, now I'm like, all of a sudden it's like you're gonna feel a certain way about things because X, Y, and Z. So I you know, that's the thing, that the baggage I'm carrying to the situation that makes me feel like baby's being put in a corner.
Right.
You know, and I think a lot of people are feeling that way. But you know, even with the Jimmy Kimmel thing, I was like, when I looked back at what he said, because I was so curious to say, well, what did he say?
I don't even know what he said.
Well, it was
And I
something.
just
It was
heard-
just something a way of how Trump. He compared the way that Trump mourned him was like a kid mourning a goldfish, I think.
Right.
And then there was another term about criticizing people after the guy who had unalived him as sort of not being part of them when he might have been part of their crew or something. So it was nothing
Right.
outlandish. Like, somebody in my comments was like, oh, well, Tucker Carlson got fired. I'm like, yeah, Tucker Carlson was saying like some outlandish things and some like vulgar things about people, not on air, but
Right.
like, I'm like, that's a terrible comparison, because Tucker Carlson's not a comedian doing a comedic monologue every
Right.
day as
Right.
his job.
Yeah, people are just pissed at Jimmy for whatever anyway.
Yeah,
and
that's it. That's just
it's,
another reason to fit it into the narrative.
and it's another reason to put it in there. I don't think people should get killed for talking, and I don't think people should get fired for talking if it doesn't incite violence or anything like that. And I think
that's what
we are in this world where everything seems crazy, and I'm with you on the not sitting back and not saying anything, but then a part of me comes in and says, but like, who cares what I think?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I don't have a platform of like where I can affect a grand change.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The only thing that and another thing, I think this comes from having a childhood like yours or whatever, is like, I believe you're an empathetic person as well.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my
So
God.
because you're seeking the approval, you also have the empathy for the other people's feelings at the same time. So for me in this situation is like, I believe that like you have to stand on what you believe in, right? And you have to be able to voice that, right? But also like, I don't want to do any harm in the same thing.
No.
So I'm like, who am I to say whatever? But
Yeah.
also it's like, I'm not going to affect outcomes at this point in my life by saying so. So I just try to live my life the way I would want.
I agree. Because I think at the end of the
anybody to live
day,
it.
how people act and treat each other in the world is what's most important. You know, and I agree. But my point is too, like, you know, at the same time, if I look at Sister Doreen, I'm willing to tell a joke about Sister Doreen because I've seen her character. She showed me her character the minute she made John stand in front of the class and cry with his pants pissed.
Absolutely.
You know, so like, that's how I feel about people like our president, where I'm like, I've seen enough things and heard enough name calling
Right.
while you're sitting in this prestigious office.
Right.
To me, to be like, you know what? Now it's like, the gloves are off now because
Yeah.
you've shown us who you are.
Yeah.
And some people are okay with that. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine, but I should get to say my piece. And we have social media for a reason. It's a channel to be social and to talk about that. But it is interesting to see. The one thing I like about Charlie Kirk was the debate, like that you're cognitively. That's why I love teaching Latin. You want people to have an argument. Oratory was a huge thing for the Romans. You had to be able to prove your point. You had to be able to follow logically. And that's the part where we tend to fall off normally, is nobody goes enough rounds in the ring mentally to really follow that. So I liked that piece of it. That was the part that I was like, oh, that's great. I don't want that to get shut down. That's a terrible thing to not have colleges, campuses where people can gather to express their opinions.
Right.
Like that's a huge plus. There's always good in everything. You know, even our president, there's good in that guy. He's got kids who love him. He's got grandkids who love him. So it's like I always remember that too. But you still can't help but I'm sure Sister Doreen was a lovely woman, but there still was some times where you're kind of like, man, like, and I think that's in all of us. I think that's even when I think about the keynote, I'm going like, that's what I wanted them to leave with. So after I talk about these teachers like Sister Doreen and Mrs. Wenzel, who was my kindergarten teacher, and like Mrs. Coleman, like for as many as there were that were showing me the non-example, there were Mrs. Utag, Mr. Harvey, Reverend Rice, all these people that were instrumental. And so we have a choice every day when we interact with people, or if you're a teacher, you can go in there and you could be someone's Mrs. Utag or you could be someone's Mrs. Coleman.
And that's every day with everybody.
Yeah. So every interaction, every time you comment on somebody's face, you can be the reason somebody smiles.
That's exactly. You said that. You had that post the other day.
Yeah.
Right. And I totally agree with that. And I, in these times when this stuff, I try to literally walk around smiling with my eyes.
Yeah.
To people. Like I literally I'll
like
smile.
COVID times. You're like, we only got our eyes.
Yeah, we only got our eyes. And I just look at people and I literally just want to be like, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
Like, hey, how are you? Like without saying it. I'm just looking at people going, hey, I'm going to try to spread this good energy, this silly Kirkness that I have, that I just like, you know what I mean? Like I just want people, like all in all, every day walking around doing my day-to-day things, I don't see all the stuff that I've seen on social media and all that stuff. Like in my day-to-day life. Right? We can sit here and talk about it. We can sit here and say this. And things are really happening to people. I'm not saying that's not happening, but I'm saying for the most part, no matter where I go in my day-to-day life, I'm having good interactions with everybody that's around me.
That's right. At the end, that's the thing that always gives me solace in the end. That's like, what are we talking about? Because even like, you know, I went tit for tat with somebody in that comment section today. I just responded back and said, I don't think it's the same thing as Tucker Carlson because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And then they came back with like a really long rebuttal. And then at that point, I'm like, well, I don't want to keep going rounds at this point. So I'm just like, well, time will tell.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was like, time will tell.
And time is the only thing.
Because now we've said our piece, and I saw the rebuttal. When you see the rebuttal, and the rebuttal veered off of what my original points were and brought in extra points, and I'm like, okay, now now it's like we're not hitting the same ball back. I hit you this ball, you threw it away and got a different ball and hit it back to me. And I'm like, wait,
you're changing the sport.
Yeah, this isn't the ball we were hitting. So once I see that happen, then I'm like, okay, this is just not. Then I can kind of tell who I'm dealing with, and I know, all right, we're no longer having a normal discourse, and we're just changing the narrative to fit whatever it is.
You're trying to push a different agenda that isn't the one
you're having a conversation with someone, and they're not listening to respond back to you. They're just there waiting for you to stop so that they could to the pre-recorded message that they already had said before you even said anything.
That is in their echo chamber. Yes. That is in either side of it.
And that's what I can always tell. After that first rebuttal back, then I can tell, like, based on how they respond back. And I'm like, okay, now I know who I'm dealing with, and now I can react the way. Like, hey, I just agree to disagree.
But I would implore you to just not even.
Yeah, to not even start.
No. Oh. Post your post. You know what I mean? You want to, like, absolutely, but then
don't.
After that,
that's it. Yeah.
Because it's those.
I know. You're right.
Because it's that little, when you're going to type, and you get you know what I mean? That little feeling where you're like,
how many times have you written something and don't hit send? You know how many times I've held back, and I'm like, I write it. And I'll like screenshot that I wrote it.
I went through a pretty bad divorce. And I can tell you I have typed out pages on my phone and then just hit delete after I typed it out, which is one of the hardest things to do.
And it can be very cathartic to do. I remember watching Oprah. I watched an Oprah at one point when I was a kid, and they were talking about writing a letter. I remember writing a letter to my dad at one point about, like, disappointment or not being around or whatever, and then just keep it in a drawer, they said, or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember, because sometimes that can be cathartic, you know? Like, even with the concept of, like, comedy equals tragedy plus time, you know? there has to be that time component for the processing. So like,
Absolutely.
it's good to have, like, I think you go to some open mics, you see a comic get up there and they're just talking about what happened to them, like a Marvelous Mrs. Maisel moment.
Yeah.
When in reality, you should go journal first, process those feelings.
Yes.
And then you can come find the funny. You know, like when I first started, well, even before that, my daughter was first born and we found out she had autism. There was no way I was going to get up and tell a joke about that because it was too, for me, I was feeling a certain way about it. And it wasn't until, by the time she was 7, it took me like, by the time I started doing stand-up, it wasn't even when I first started joking about it.
Right.
So it was like, it's one of those things that now it's like my favorite thing to talk about.
Right.
But because I'm able to talk about it in a way that hopefully will help others who maybe were where I was,
right?
And now all of a sudden we can kind of, and that's what my comedy
and time
is.
will tell.
And time will tell.
Because in time they might be like, I remember that guy. I saw him. His daughter's this. I'm in that spot now. I can see it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
there's stuff I joke about I never thought would be funny.
Yeah.
At family picnics and stuff like that. My mom still hates some of the jokes I tell, but it's like I'm like, hey mom, this is my childhood. That's right. And the other thing is like no two kids grow up. You were an only child?
I was.
Right. So but I had 3 siblings.
But even still, those three different
all different. They're different parents at different times of their lives. You're at a different time. You're coming in and now there's 3 of you. Now there was 2 of you. Now there's a third one. Oh, there's a fourth one. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, so the parents everything's different for every kid. And it's the same thing with situations, and it doesn't remove the trauma. Like you were saying, there are people that had it way worse. But the fact that you can look at these things and process them in this way shows a strength that I think, there's more and more people that do have that in this day and age that we're living in. These conversations would never happen 50 years ago, 60 years ago. You know what I mean? Guys aren't sitting there talking about like, well, I know people had it way worse than me, but I still had it pretty bad, and I had to. And you're right. You're not wrong. But back then they were like, yeah, I watched Jimmy's arm get ripped out of a Columbine or whatever, on a farmer. Like there was different traumas. Yeah. And they weren't worried about the fact that we're over the physical trauma stuff, and as a society, as a human beings, and moving into discussing, how a child mentally grows and how their brain grows and how like these things affect you as a kid and how it makes you. But I think there's only a small percentage of people that can go through these things in life and then look back and objectively say, this is why I'm the way I am, or this, because there's a lot of people just plow through the rest of life being complete dicks and dickheads and Doreens and blame everybody else for stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But there's a strength in you being able to step aside and look at that stuff and then tell jokes about
it. Well, that's it. Yeah. Well, I think, too, I owe it to my kids to be like a certain way, or I owe it to my students to be, a role model, to be a mentor, to be, I've always put myself in those positions. Even that leadership conference, like I was putting myself in a position where I could see that, I had something to offer. I was always kind of the peacekeeper. I was always the one who could logically see. I remember this one time I had a buddy of mine, Ferris, we've since lost to drugs years ago, but a really good friend of mine when I was younger. Knew him since 3rd grade. And I lost touch. He transferred schools for a while. He came back in 8th grade, and he was kind of like those, into drugs, smoking cigarette. I smoked my first cigarette with him. I did my first drink of alcohol was with him. Like all of the bad things were with this kid. And he was always a good kid, but he was from a broken home. Neither parent really kept tabs on him.
Yeah. And there was cigarettes and booze sitting around the house.
Always. That's where I first got it.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things where like he always wanted to be a good kid, and he taught me all this stuff. But I taught him. But then I think he sought the friendship with me because he saw stability in me. He saw a 2-parent household, even if they were 2 women.
Right.
He saw stability. He would come to my house. We would wash his clothes.
Yeah.
He would eat. So it was like I remember just thinking like, wow, like he had it a certain way, but I just really enjoyed my friendship with him, and I think I learned a lot from him. He learned a lot from me. It was good for me to kind of push the boundaries of things too, because I think as a kid you got to push boundaries.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested to see if he were still alive today, like what would he be doing? But like I knew I wanted to have a good impression on him. I knew I wanted him to be better than he was. I remember having a friend who I would see on every other weekend when I visited my dad, and he would steal, and he taught me how to steal. So we would steal together. We had this gimmick where you would go buy the highlighter from this general store. Imagine this old school general store. Didn't have cameras, had the big mirrors in the corner of and so you would get the highlighters for like $1.99. You would buy them. Then you would you would ask for help to find it. And so they had to take you to the far back to show you where they were. And then you would go to the front desk where the baseball cards were and shove them up under your hoodie.
So he's distracting, one's stealing baseball cards. Okay.
And then you would take the highlighters back when the shift changed and get your money back. And we ran
nice little scam.
And then he started doing it at like Walmart's.
Okay.
And got caught.
Yeah.
And I remember like making him promise he was never going to steal again.
Right.
And like
you try.
Yeah, because then he wouldn't be able to come. I wouldn't have anybody to hang out with when I had to come to my dad's house every other weekend.
Yeah.
And because he was in the situation that he was going to his parents' house every other weekend. And I was always that kid that wanted that, even if I was willing to hang out, and even if I was willing to do certain things. At that point, there was always a limit. I always had a limit with stuff. I never got into any hard drugs. I never anything crazy. But I did. I think it was good. I think we all need to test boundaries, but at the same time, we need people in our lives that'll kind of make sure we don't go too far. That we, keep people accountability, and that's what I hope when I give this talk. That at the end, these teachers also see that in themselves, that they need to have something that fills their cup up, so that they could fill other people's cups up. And
well, that's what dealing with teachers that have. I mean, students, you have hard students, everything. And then parents with autistic kids or kids with this defiant whatever syndrome and like all that stuff. Oppositional defiance, all this kind of stuff, right? Whether you want to believe in it or not, the kid is acting that way, right? Yeah. Like some people are like, oh, it's like, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you believe in it or not. Yeah. Like the kid is acting this way. And I always look at these parents and I say to them, I go, what are you doing for you? And they stop and look at me. I go, what are you doing for you? I said, are you taking care of yourself? I said, I'm sure the last 10 years of your life since you realized that he was nonverbal or, whatever, like have been fighting with your husband and dealing with this and feeling bad because you're neglecting your other child, right? And they look at me like, and I'm like, that's basically what your last 8 or 9 years have been, right? And they like look at me, I'm like, when's the last time you went and got a massage? Yeah. They're like, what? And these are a lot of affluent people. You know what I mean? And people don't think about self-care. Yes. And that's self-love because how can I give you love if I don't love myself? 100%. And then these parents look at me when I say that. I'm like, just dude, I don't care what it is. Take an hour, get a book and a glass of wine and sit somewhere and set a timer and don't do anything else for an hour. Just give yourself an hour. Start with an hour, but you have to, and I admire you for your struggles with it because like you said in the beginning it was hard, but now you make posts with her, you can joke about it, you do stuff, and it does, and I know it helps other people. Yes. Well, you know what I mean?
I want other people, like I think I want other people to see that and see that what it can look like. And hey, some people with autism is a very different experience. You know, like I have a very cute daughter that now is verbal, and she's, for all intensive purposes, seems like she's able to keep up with her schoolwork for the most part, and needs help with taking breaks and getting sensory overload. But hey, we're still very blessed. But hey, and a lot of that was my wife being smart enough to get her in the therapies as young as 18 months, when some people are like, oh, she'll grow out of it. Next thing you know, it's 4 or 5 years. Well,
and you're behind.
She was getting regular therapies from 18 months because we weren't afraid to say something's different here.
Right.
And I think sometimes you just sweep things under the rug and you just hope that it'll go away, and then
and that's old school family thinking.
Yes.
That's old school American. That's old school, like that just... the shame, the push it under the rug or wait, and then now you're screwed because it's way too late.
We went this whole episode and I didn't even introduce you. You know what I'm saying? I was just, I do an intro, but it was just funny. I'm sitting there with my good friend, Kirke Gardener.
Hello.
I didn't even get to say hello 40 minutes in as we're ending the episode. No, but I was like, it's amazing. Cause I think that's what I love about this, because that's why I call it jaywalking. Because I want things to be like an organic conversation. So like we had started, I didn't even know what my plan was for today, but like you just started asking me questions. We just started talking, And then it turned into like a really good conversation. So it was kind of fun to just jaywalk a little with through that, because it was good for me too. Because I'm thinking about the conference, and I'm like, oh, it's been on my mind like 24/7. So it was good to talk out a lot of those things.
And
today.
you'll be great, and you'll do fine.
I'm so excited for it. Honestly, because I see the potential of it, and like I said, it's almost like the culmination of my life. Like I was going through all these things,
and now you're putting it all together.
And I'm putting it. Really, and I obviously, it's like going to temper my expectations within it, but it's a great story. I got a lot of fun things to talk about, so I'm excited to do that. But I am nervous. I think between now and like Saturday afternoon, it'll be, I'm going to be like,
absolutely. But that's the fun part.
That is.
Like, I know I'm doing a mic tonight, and I still feel like,
I know.
Yeah. And then I have a show to plug on the 27th, September 27th on Tilton Road.
Where's
at the Shore Diner in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey.
Egg Harbor Township.
It's our first show there with Comic Cure.
Oh, cool.
Remember Richie Lease, Richie Lala, those guys? So we're hoping to do more around that area in South Jersey and stuff. But the first one's at this diner.
September 27th.
Saturday, September 27th.
That's awesome.
And I got to do a clean. I'm like opening clean, which I'm fine clean. Like most of my stuff's clean. I'm not sitting here dropping bombs. But it's like when you're working something out and then you go to an open mic and you're like, Tilton Diner, and you're trying to like work out. You're like, Like, I'm like, I know it's the Shore, but you got to hang dead starfish on your walls, huh? Like, come on. We all know we're down here. Hey, what is it? But, that's September 27th. But I always love talking to you. Even that dude from the day we met at that mic, I think it might have been Tuned Up or Exton.
Was it Phoenixville? Did you come to the Great American Pub with Pat?
I came to the... Yes, that was the first one you saw me at, but I didn't really meet you.
No, you're right.
That was Phoenixville
Tuned
upstairs.
Up. Yeah, Tuned
and
Up.
then Tuned Up. And then you were like, after like a week or two, you're like, hey, can you host this thing for me? And I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, absolutely. I love that. And just the Exton Hotel.
Oh my goodness.
That place. I missed that place.
That was fun. Yeah,
but Brad's got his thing on Thursday nights now, which is good.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Bradford, so there's a lot of there's a lot of great mics out, which is kind of fun. It's good, the camaraderie of like that's where we met, going open mics, and so that's kind of cool. I like that. I appreciate you're gonna get to come. Are you gonna stay for the show when you come up to the board show?
Absolutely. I'll come up.
It'll be cool for you to see
absolutely.
From behind the scenes too. I'm looking forward to because I'm with them in Jersey and like Boston. We're going to Boston the day after.
Okay.
And then I'm in like Albany and Wilkes-Barre coming up with them.
Nice. With
Board Teachers. So check out boardteachers.com for that. jyoder.com or jyodercomedy.com for
and I'm
all
just
the deets.
at Kirke Gardener, but it's Kirke.
That's important.
Gardner.
Yeah, so check them out. Check us out. Share, like. I need to get those 500, some new 500.
You'll get them back, and they'll be better.
With the Philly Karen, I got like 1,500 last weekend.
Nice.
So I'm still up, but some of them were like, "Oh, he stopped talking about Philly Karen."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, yeah, she's done.
Yeah,
she's hiding in Delco somewhere. I don't know where she is.
She deserves to hide.
Yeah, that's fine.
She's blending in with all the other haircuts.
That's right, Cruella de Bills. All right, well, okay, great talking with you.
Always
Check us
fun.
out, September 27th for him. Me, I'm somewhere, so come find me. And, share, do all the things you're supposed to do. You're on the toilet anyway. So,
yeah.
All right. See you guys next week.